JD Vance sat down for an interview with Margaret, Brennan of CBS News, and the primary focus of their conversation was regarding these mass deportations that are currently happening. In this interview, you have two sides. You have JD Vance, who was explaining with logic and reason why these deportations need to happen, outlining the utter failures of the last administration and the unimaginable danger that they have put innocent American citizens in by allowing our borders to be open for the last 4 years. And then there's Margaret's side, where she pretends that we haven't been in danger, thus ignoring the outrage of millions of Americans who have shown just how bad things have gotten, while making the case for criminals and schmerrists to stay here, using the lie that she's really just concerned about women and children to try to hide her truly pro-criminal stance. Needless to say, as JD Vance's IQ is at least quadruple Margaret Brennan's, she ends up making herself look completely ridiculous and now has the entire internet mocking her as we're repeating the phrase, "I really don't care, Margaret." Let's get into it. Welcome to my channel, Outspoken Samantha. I appreciate you being here. Do me a couple favors, hit the thumbs up button, become a subscriber if you're not already, and turn on your notifications so that you never miss out on a conversation like the one we're about to have. Guys, though the media has lost all credibility and are now known as nothing more than clown shows, except without the humor, they are still deeply, deeply committed to their propaganda and gaslighting, and apparently have no limit to the level of humiliation that they are willing to put themselves through. The last election proved that the vast majority of Americans do not take them seriously, and that we are well aware of the reporting that they claim to do is nothing more than pushing a very specific political agenda, and they don't seem to care that we know that 99% of the time they are lying to us. And I mean, as insane as these people are, you really have to admire their level of commitment to the insanity. So one of these demonstrations of pure gaslighting came just a couple of days ago as JD Vance agreed to sit down for an interview with Margaret Brennan and discuss these mass deportations and try to get into the details of what the logic and the reason behind them are. And while Miss Brennan is still trying to push the idea that these actions are unjust, she is conveniently forgetting the facts, which are that this was a leading issue in the 2024 election, and both Trump and Tom Homan were very, very clear about the actions that they plan on taking. We not only voted in favor of sweeping the country and sending people who are here illegally back to their own country, we also voted in favor of the level of seriousness that they demonstrated around this issue. So none of this is a secret. I think the only level of shock that people might feel from this situation is from the fact that it's been years since we had a president in office that kept their promises and actually followed through. At least 4 years, to be exact. So we're going to look at a couple of clips from this conversation. First, they get into a discussion about birthright citizenship, which, as we know, is something that Trump is trying to challenge. And while there are a lot of arguments both for and against birthright citizenship, JD Vance is simply laying out the case as to why Trump wants to challenge it, and it just seems to go completely over her head.
What's the basic idea of President Trump's view on this? If you are a lawful permanent resident or a legal immigrant who plans to stay, your children, of course, should become American citizens. But let's say you're the child of an ambassador. You don't become.
But that's not part of it.
Well, that is
already a carve-out
an
having to do
important
with kids of
principle.
diplomats.
But we're saying that carve-out should apply to anybody who doesn't plan to stay here. If you come here on vacation and you have a baby in an American hospital, that baby doesn't become an American citizen. If you're an illegal alien and you come here temporarily, hopefully, your child does not become an American citizen by virtue of just having been born on American soil. It's a very basic principle in American immigration law that if you want to become an American citizen and you've done it the right way, and the American people in their collective wisdom have welcomed you into our national community, then you become a citizen. But temporary residents, people who come in here, whether legally or illegally, and don't plan to stay, their children should become American citizens. I don't know any country that does that or why we would be different.
A couple of things I wanted to address here first. I think JD Vance could have used better phrasing than words like plans to stay or doesn't plan to stay, because I think anybody who comes here legally or illegally and has a baby in America, for the most part, they probably plan to stay here. If they are here illegally, they are hoping that their child, now being a citizen just because they were born on American soil, will keep them from being deported now. I think better phrasing would have been And for those who are in the process of becoming a citizen, and I'm not talking about asylum seekers or refugees, but people who have started the actual process and are working toward that citizenship, and it's pretty clear that they are not just growing their families so that they can bypass the law, versus those who just hopped the border, came here illegally, and are using the birth of their baby as their ticket into the country. Just wanted to say, I think that he could have phrased that a little bit better. Let's go on.
Well, this is a country founded by immigrants.
Well, this is a country founded by This is a very unique country, and it was founded by some immigrants and some settlers. But just because we were founded by immigrants doesn't mean that 240 years later that we have to have the dumbest immigration policy in the world. No country says that temporary visitors, their children, will be given complete access to the benefits and blessings of American citizenship. America should actually look out for the interests of our citizens first. And that means, again, if you're here permanently and lawfully, your kid becomes an American citizen. If you're not here permanently, if you're not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States and don't plan to be, why would we make those people's children American citizens permanently?
By saying this country was founded by immigrants, that is her sidestepping the argument, and it is a very intentional tactic by these leftist propaganda pushers to vilify the person they're interviewing and make them sound like they're against something that they're not. By making this specific point, she doesn't address the actual points that JD Vance is making against birthright citizenship, because she can't make those points. So she inserts these little points to make it seem like he's against immigration entirely or against immigrants entirely. And that's when you start hearing their entire base start repeating these lines. Instead of discussing the issue about why we need legal immigration, they'll just say this country was founded by immigrants. And this is why conversations with the base who are still dedicated to the Democrat media are incapable of understanding our points when we want to discuss the deeper issues at play here. They think that just repeating what these propagandist news hosts have said, that they have won the discussion, and they excuse themselves from having to listen to the real problems that are going on and are very much of a concern to most of the country. Of course, JD Vance is a pro and he gets his own jabs in, and the phrase, the dumbest immigration policy in the world, is really going to hit people hard. We'll get to another clip in just a second, but I wanted to bring this lady in really quick because I just love her take on the birthright citizen issue.
States are suing Donald Trump right now for birthright citizenship. Let me tell you what that sounds like to me in my brain. Some bullshit, right? That sounds like to me, when I break it down, if I come in your house at 9 months pregnant and have my baby in the middle of your flow, I get rights to your house. Basically, that's what birthright citizenship is. I had my baby in the middle of your living room. So I know you own this house, but I got parts of your house too now. My baby is a part of owning your home because I had her in the middle of your living room flow. Your mama here illegally. Your daddy here illegally. And because she waddled her fat ass over here and thought she would give birth to you here, now y'all all just citizens. Something is not clicking, Richard. How are y'all making these kids American citizens when the mama wasn't supposed to be here and the daddy wasn't supposed to be here either? So the baby was never supposed to be born here. Your mama black, your daddy black, you black. Your mama white, your daddy white, you white. Your mama illegal, your daddy illegal, you illegal too.
This not only simplifies the issue of this policy in general, but how it incentivizes people to break the law. If you knew that all you had to do was give birth in someone's home to have the right to own it, we'd have a lot of people showing up on our doorsteps and dropping their babies in our living rooms. Well, not mine. My house is kind of small, so I don't think it's going to be anybody's first choice, but you get what I mean. And continuing to pretend that these policies haven't been intentionally abused by probably millions of people at this point just demonstrates that you don't actually care about the law. You care about an agenda. I truly believe that most of the people on these mainstream media networks are truly sociopaths, totally devoid of human emotion or empathy, and they don't lose any sleep at night knowing that the things they advocate for are harming millions of innocent people, both citizens and illegal immigrants. And Tom Homan recently talked about how the media is spinning this stuff, demonstrating that they don't care how dangerous these policies and their abuse of the system and their advocacy of abuse of the system has harmed countless human beings.
We're going to be sued every day, numerous times. I think you'll see the left try to control the media. They're going to show the first crying female, first crying child, and say how inhumane we are. But they won't talk about 340,000 children that they've failed to take care of. They're not going to talk about the young women who have been murdered in this country at the hands of criminal cartels. We're not going to talk about the hundreds of angel moms and dads who buried their children. You want to talk about family separation? They buried their children because their children were killed by a member of a criminal cartel or someone that's not supposed to be here. They'll tell one side of the story. They'll try to vilify us, but they're not going to stop us from doing our job. I don't care what the media says about me. If they saw what I saw in 34 years, saw the tragedies I've dealt with in 34 years, they would certainly understand me.
But I think that that's the problem right there, Mr. Holman. They know that these tragedies are happening. They know that these horrors are happening against women and children, and that this has been going on for years and years. And the truly horrifying part is that they don't care. They sweep it under the rug, that they make excuses for it. They are well aware. This is not a secret to them. And that is just unimaginably disgusting to me. And this last clip is what has been going viral, and it just shows the continuous effort by the propagandist media to paint people who care about America and our laws as the bad people, and people who want to subvert our laws as the good people. Have a listen.
Talked to us in August. You said, I don't think we should abandon anybody who's been properly vetted and helped us. Do you stand by that?
Well, Margaret, I don't agree that all these immigrants or all these refugees have been properly vetted. In fact, we know that there are cases of people who allegedly were properly vetted and then were literally planning terrorist attacks on our country. That happened during the campaign, if you may remember. So clearly not all of these foreign nationals
but there are
have been properly
30,000
vetted.
people in the pipeline, Afghan refugees.
But my primary
Do you stand by
concern
it?
as the vice president, Margaret, is to look after the American people. And now that we know that we have vetting problems with a lot of these refugee programs, we absolutely cannot unleash thousands of unvetted people into our country.
These people
it's
are
not
vetted.
good.
These people are vetted.
Just like the guy who planned a terrorist attack in Oklahoma a few months ago, he was allegedly properly vetted. And many people in the media and the Democratic Party said that he was properly vetted. Clearly he wasn't. I don't want my children to share a neighborhood with people who are not properly vetted. And because I don't want it for my kids, I'm not going to force any other American citizens' kids to do that either.
No, and that was a very particular case. It wasn't clear if he was radicalized when he got here or while he was living here.
I don't really care, Margaret. I don't want that person in my country. And I think most Americans agree with me.
Yes, we have repeatedly talked about needing to vet people, and I stand by that. I would say that most people who voted for Trump still stand by that, and JD Vance obviously still stands by that. But you know who doesn't stand by that? People like Margaret and Brennan, because the issue is, what are these people's definition of being vetted? Margaret thinks that somebody getting these people's name and then giving them a court date for 7 years in the future is the definition of vetting, or letting them onto an airplane to be flown into the interior of the country is vetting. After the disastrous, embarrassing withdrawal from Afghanistan, the US did take in tens of thousands of evacuees, and logic would suggest that it would be very, very difficult to vet that many people so quickly. Not to mention, these are tens of thousands of people who live in a country where anti-American hate is entrenched in their culture. So these people should have been thoroughly looked into. And that's just a fraction of the people who have been allowed to invade our country over the last few years. There have been estimates of anywhere between 11 million to over 20 million who have come here illegally. And Margaret Brennan wants to sit here and pretend that concerns about how thoroughly these people have been looked into is silly and just another right-wing talking point. Well, if secure immigration and safety of American citizens is a right-wing talking point, then open borders and putting Americans in danger is a left-wing stance. That's confirmed by the fact that the only concern Margaret Brennan expressed toward anyone in this conversation was Afghan refugees. And not only brushing off the knowledge that one of them planned an attack on American soil, but making excuses for this person that he could have become radicalized and dangerous after he got here. I mean, I guess that's possible if he was admitted to Harvard right after landing in the US. That would at least make sense. Either way, it doesn't matter. He's not a citizen. He planned an attack. He needs to go home. We are past the point of being able to put the genie back in the bottle and vet all of these people now. We need to go home and start the process the right way. Anyway, it was a great interview to watch, and absolutely stunning that the media is still dedicated to their lies and their false narratives as ever. Do you know what I also love, just as a side note, is that these interviews that Trump has been giving, and Tom Homan and JD Vance and all of these people that are on Trump's team, it feels like political correctness is going out the window, where we've had politicians in the past for so long feel like they've had to be careful with their answers in order to appeal to both sides. Now, They're just calling it how it is. Know that no matter what they say, the media is going to spin and propagandize their words, so they just say exactly what they mean. And in this case, it's, I don't really care, Margaret. I would love to hear all of your thoughts on this in the comments below. Please be sure to hit that thumbs up button, become a subscriber if you're not, and help me to grow this channel. That is so truly appreciated. Keep it real, guys, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.